Okay, so let's just run through the code and the project itself just to get a sense of it. So what have we got here? So along the side here is our hierarchy in our navigator. Let's just start off with the brick class because that's kind of the basic one that everything's derived from. Let me just move the view. So basically you can see all these bricks here. So if I was to click on this brick here, this one, or this one. Okay, so let's just click on this brick here. You can see that it's actually made up, if I click on the drop down here, from a empty object inside, which is just like a holder so that all the bricks inside are positioned locally to it. But basically each of the bricks is actually made up from kind of one by one bricks. And so if we look at how these are generated, if I was just to duplicate this object and move this across here, you can see I've got a script over here attached to the brick. It's called a component, and we can actually set the number of rows. That's X rows, so let's say 3, and number of columns we'll say 1. The separation, that's just a constant. We've also got the color index, and so there's 0, 1, 2, which is blue, yellow, and red, so we can change that to yellow if we want to. And then what we simply just do is we click, we just go click build brick. Now we just need to get rid of the old one for a sec. So you can see now that the brick is now built. Also, we'll just need to change the rotation so it builds properly. There we are. So you can see that's basically how it works. Okay, the script associated with this is called construct brick. So let's take a look at that in the library here. So construct brick. So basically all it does is it takes the inputs X and Y and the color index, and then build brick is actually just the method in the script that is going to build a brick. No, I did not want to do that. Close. So yeah, build brick is just the method that's being called to build a brick, and what it requires is whenever you create a brick, you just need to make sure you've got these parameters initialized as you want them. So let's go into here. Okay, construct brick. Okay, so this is construct brick. This up here just tells it to execute in edit mode. Here's your public int X and Y for the dimensions of the brick. This is more or less a constant, and this is the index of the color being used. And build brick, all it does is destroys any existing instances, instantiates the new brick, a new empty game object that's going to kind of hold everything else. And then what we do is we instantiate a prefab, which is a prefabricated brick. So these are kind of elements that aren't in the scene but are stored in the library. So this is the Lego brick simple that we'll be instantiating as a game object, and then it just sets the parent of this kind of mini brick, this 1x1 brick, to be the empty instance, and so then we can just locally position all the individual parts of a single brick precisely, and then just set the material. So that's all that script does. And so basically you're going to be instantiating a custom brick, which you can see here in the library is a prefab, and we can just open up the prefab and we can see that all of this is more or less sorted for you. I'll just change this to 0.153, so that's defaulted. Alright, yeah, so just in case that separation is 0, you know, just change it to 0.153. And alright, cool. Okay, so what's the next thing to do to show you? Right. Okay, so where everything gets built is called the build site. So this is the build site here. It's just an empty object. and it has a rotation script attached to it, and literally this is it here. It's got some speed and an idle speed. So the idea is that if the player inputs Q or E as codes, it will rotate the brick, will rotate the full workpiece, and otherwise if it's just idle then it will rotate slowly, so we get kind of a nice effect. So that's that. I suppose the next place to go is the main camera, and attached to the main camera is the Raycast camera script. And so if we go to the Raycast camera script, there's a bit going on in here. So basically what this does is it takes the mouse pointer and converts it into a ray in the scene, so that anything that I put my mouse over, it will draw a ray from the camera to that point in world space, and if there's an object there, it will detect it and return the object to me. So this is this idea that it's hit something. And so basically we go through here and we get the game object associated with the thing that's being hit, and we get the root game object, because what we want is we want to be able to access the script associated with the custom brick, despite the things which actually have colliders on them are these simple bricks. So we want to be able to access the scripts on the custom brick, so that's where we get the parent of the parent. And if it's a brick which is if the brick is not null, then we go in here and check if the tag is indeed a brick, because we don't want to select anything else like the floor mat or something like that. And we say if we're hovering, then we get the hover component on the brick, which is just a simple script like the rotation one for the world space thingy on the build site, and make it hover. Else if the mouse selects the brick, then we turn the brick into we toggle the brick on for editing, and so basically what this is saying here is it's basically saying if an existing brick is already selected within your model that you're editing, just to deactivate it. And if it is a brick that's already been instantiated, that's been selected, so part of the model, then it will reselect the brick so you can move it around. And if it's just a brick that's one of the bricks sitting on the side here, then it will instantiate it and set its parent to be the brick spawn within the build site, which is where all the bricks are locally positioned within the model. And it will just zero out its position and rotation, and it will toggle editing so you can move it around in the scene. So that's the whole of that class, and so that's that. And so where else is there to go next? Let's see. Main camera again, possibly? No. Okay, so the next place to go is onto transform brick. So this is the other script that's important. This is the one that Hannah will be probably working on. And so let me just go up to the top here. So basically this just checks if the brick is active. If the brick is toggled from what we saw in our previous script, it will actually turn on the brick, and it will also put a nice kind of halo around the brick, which indicates to the user that they've selected it. And if the brick is being disabled, then it will destroy the UI that's surrounding the brick, the kind of halo effect. And this just returns if it's active or not. So going back up to the top here, this is all the code here for transforming the brick. These just check the change in height from the initial height, and so they're just looking at basically from a specific point in space how much has the brick changed in moving up and down, left and right, back and forth. If the brick is active, set the direction of movement for this frame in forward, back, up, down, left, right, and then for each of those, if they're within a certain box, so I restrict the movement, I don't let the player like send the brick off to minus infinity and plus infinity in any direction. If it's within a certain space, then I permit them to move it. If they've exceeded the bounds of the space, which is these first two here, if they're stuck on the edge of the space, I'll only permit them to move down or move up, depending on whether they're at the bottom of the space or the top of the space, but I won't let them move further. And so basically this is the same code, more or less practically identical. It should be refactored, but this is for left, right, up and down, back, forth kind of thing. These are just for rotation. It's just a simple line that rotates the brick by 90 degrees if you hit the Z or C keys. And if nothing's happening, this is the snapping code. So if you've just released the keys, but the brick is still active, it will snap the brick to the nearest kind of brick kind of point in space. So bricks can only stop on brick intervals, if you know what I mean. So like real Lego, you can't like put the bricks halfway across each other because they won't fit together right. And so that's what this is simulating here. This cubic easing, I'm not using it. This is just the code for the snapping. It's just some modulus stuff. It's a little bit maths, but yeah, that's all that's going on in this code here. Let's see what else is here. This is not mine. And okay, and then this is the final piece. So let me just go into the library here. And so the library is on the library script, and basically what this does is this: when you hit the space bar, it will store whatever the active model is to the library and display it behind the mat. And so in this, what have we got? If they hit the space key to save the model, then for each of the existing models, I just want you to shift them along one, so the latest one displays in the front row of behind the mat. And then we want to let's see, what are we doing here? We want to get the brick spawn and any bricks contained within that brick spawn, which is essentially the model you've been working on. Get that and essentially instantiate. Let me just see. You want to make sure that. Oh yeah. So the first thing here we're doing is we're just making sure to turn off the selector if there's any selector still turned on, as a UI for moving the bricks around. And then what we want to do is we just want to place the model in the front row of the library, and we want to let's see, what are we doing here? I think, what we're just doing here is we're destroying any bricks that are remaining in the edit area on the blue mat. And so when we're placing the model, what are we doing? We're just literally copying it and pasting it into the, and setting the transform so it just sits in the library, and then we insert it into the library here. So yeah, what are the things you need to store for storage? Basically, you want to store the X for each brick within each mod. For every model, every brick has a local position, X and Y. It has a width and length, X rows and Y columns for like the actual dimensions of the brick. So when you rebuild the brick, and it's got a color. And that's it. Oh, and a rotation. Yeah, a rotation. and all of those can be accessed more or less from either the game object or from the construct brick script before you close the game and write them out to a database. So I think that's pretty much the tour of the code. So yeah. No. Okay, cool. It did save.